Recording starting. Okay, here we are. Missed the whole week. My daughter got married last weekend. It was convenient. There was Veterans Day, so that was cool. No, she's not. She's married now. Yep, but that was a great time. Yeah, I probably wasn't quite as available, but we'll be more available. So we're going to talk about syndication and web services. There's a lot of things about XML in that. We're going to learn about XML just generally, and then how it applies specifically to syndication and getting YouTube videos, that kind of thing. But first, let's just see how we doing on homework. Any questions? So assignment 12 was CAPTCHA. Okay. So here's, I just wanted to show you Steve's. That's pretty cool, Steve. You can tell when a graphics you can always tell when a graphics designer, or at least somebody that has some graphics design experience, does something that looks better, has rounded edges, just has a better feel. That was a good job on that. But I need to log in. I think this one works. Yep. And here's assignment 13 from Stephen. He's already got that done. So you, as I understand, you used the example from the book, that kind of that function to draw it, and enhanced it.
Changes the scale. It's dynamic. It's based on the
highest peak. Yeah, biggest number you got, which is great.
And I had to move for some reason the thing wants to draw the scale.
Yeah.
Practically on top of the border.
Okay.
I want to do that. So I use that. There's a whole bunch of other things that you can do.
Yeah, there's a lot of, yeah, it's even mentioned in the email to me that there is a lot of stuff we didn't discuss about graphics. You can go crazy with the graphics stuff. It's very powerful, very time consuming. And if I had a choice, I'd probably rather pick up a library and use it, because they've typically done a lot of what you need. And you can get on with your life and solve your business problem. Yeah. That's true. There is a trade-off. Using somebody else's something requires you to learn it, and so that takes a lot of learning of it, how it works, and trying to get in their mind a little bit to understand how it works. And it takes time to do that. But I think in the end, it probably you can end up with a more professional result if you use some of that stuff. So just log out. The magnifier. Oh. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I saw that before. That's your search. Yeah. Plus, this is your sort up and down. Yeah, that is really nice. I saw that. Love the little things that scoot out of the sides. And on a normal screen, this is an awfully small screen. I'm sure that all fits, just fine.
It's a combination. That's maybe working out with Ajax. It's to change the stuff in the middle. So it's the Ajax is called PHP, which is JavaScript.
Hey, Mark. Okay. Yeah. It's right there. Anyway, good job on that. So, got an example. So, any more questions about homework or charting or
Everything's getting you to get the ball.
I just told the guys my daughter got married last weekend, so I was a little less responsive. And poor Mark, he turned something in on time. And I've been looking at so many different people are turning a bunch of things late, and I was looking at the dates, and I marked his late when it wasn't late. it was like early.
11 for you to look at and 9 up there for you to look at.
Okay. Anyway, so I'll try to. Hey, Cal. Got a question? I don't see anything typed down here. Oh, thanks. Thanks. It was really fun, yeah. She's 27, so it was a good time. And so let's go on to XML. So what's XML? When I first heard about XML, I had a little bit of a rough time putting it in perspective with HTML and other markup languages. So anybody here want to take a crack at explaining what XML is?
Extended markup language.
Extended markup language, there we go.
Just curious,
yeah.
Did you get into the part where you create definitions of the rest of that stuff? Beyond just giving you
Like creating a schema?
Yeah.
I've done that before. Yeah. So I'm going to show you some examples. So the thing that I got confused about with XML is that it's really, XML is a generic term. It's a generic tool for solving all kinds of problems. It's a way of holding data, typically ASCII data, although there are some perturbations of it that you probably wouldn't quite call XML. It puts binary data in the file as well. But generally, the pure definition is it's all ASCII data, and it looks a lot like HTML. HTML is not strictly XML because it breaks a couple XML rules. But if you don't break those rules, HTML is an implementation of XML. The typical rules are when you look at I need this guy. A simple XML file. Here's one. This is an XML file that controls the logging function of a program I wrote. Okay, so an XML looks a lot like HTML, but it starts with its XML version so-and-so. It has tags, just like HTML, but every tag has to have a closing tag. There are some tags in HTML that you don't necessarily have to put closing tags on, and it just figures it out. Like the LI tag for a list item. You typically don't have to close it, or a break tag. Line, yeah, inline. But they do all have closing tags, and you could put them on in HTML. If you did, you would make it strictly XML compliant. This one, again, there's the tag. This is an attribute on that tag. This tag has no text inside of it. Sometimes you'll have tags with text on the inside. It just has other XML items or nodes in it. That's right. With each of these have a value attribute. So that's it. This is a simple example of an XML file. It's often used because a lot of programming languages like C# have libraries to read it and parse it and get all the information out of it, and makes it pretty easy. The same information could be held in a comma delimited line if you wanted to. It's a little bit harder to do the hierarchical type of keeping of data. So these three items are underneath this logger tag that has this attribute. So it's a little more difficult to get that kind of hierarchy. Here's another example of an XML file. This one keeps the configuration of a program. So if this program runs and has a bunch of windows open, here's the location of here's the location and size of one of the windows inside this size tag. It has something called a config file, is in this directory, but it's just it's generic XML. I actually defined it to keep the configuration of this program. So that's what you can do with XML. You can define it kind of any way you want, and you can define your own tags, and you basically make up your own database. Here's an XML file called KML. It's used by Google Earth. See if I can get to it. I'm going to Google Apps. We'll open up that guy. So this XML directs Google Earth to plot points. So it's basically a database of I work for a company that does drive tests for cell phone coverage. So they drive and they listen to the cell phone network. Each one of these points is a data collection point, and you can tell there's different shades of colors on them, and the different shades indicate signal strength as they drive along. So each one of those little balls is where a measurement was taken on there. What, excuse me?
When you get down to drive around and do that.
Yeah. Actually, the driving part is about as boring as you could.
I figured that.
You can be, because look what he did. He wanted to, when you're doing drive tests, you want to cover an area and see where there are blank spots. So they were covering this neighborhood, and so they went down every street in it, and it's just really boring. But writing the programs to analyze the data, that's pretty cool.
How they use just a little spot.
Yeah, little spots. It's different. You drive down the.
Just around the corner here and there. Really different.
That's the cell phone provider's problem. It's
measuring signal strength
they measure all kinds of things, but I think this is plotting mostly at signal strength for the technology that they were measuring. So that's what a cell phone provider has to do, though. Is they typically do maps like this to show the coverage of the cell phone. But back to the file that created this. This is called KML, but look what is the definition. It's really an XML file. It is Google's definition to be able to plot stuff on their maps. And so the first part is setting up some style for the different shading of the little dots or little balls that gets placed down. And then down here, each one of these is an individual dot on the map. Yeah. So it's, excuse me? Yeah, there's probably at least hundreds, if not thousands, on there. And I didn't type in this file. So It was actually a C# program that
Right now,
wrote
the index as they drive down the street.
Yeah, actually they're driving down the street, they're just collecting the data, and then after the fact we went back and processed the data and created this KML file so that we could plot it.
It's just creating this as a text file, right?
Yeah, this is just, well, it's actually using C#'s XML support.
Oh, okay.
So you create in memory new XML document,
Yeah.
and then you say add node. You know. You could just write this out as it ends up being just a text file, but there's all kinds of methods and a whole library that helps you write, write and update. Yeah. So this is another just another example of XML and how to use it. Now, when we get yeah, and that's kind of the first couple of examples. When we do this when we do the RSS and the query of YouTube for videos, we will either create XML or we will get XML back. When we do this REST query, this is a URL that you send to YouTube. It says, give me information about these videos, or I'm searching for these videos. It's basically how you search over the web. And REST stands for Representational State Transfer. I knew somebody would ask. But that name is pretty meaningless. It basically just gives you an XML file back with all the information about your query. And I'll show you about that tonight. RSS is when you do an RSS feed. Let's look at here's the class example running on our server. This is just this page is not in itself a RSS feed. It's just showing stuff out of the database. The top part is just listing out in the table entries in the database. Clicking on this thing, though, goes to, as you can see on the bottom, goes to newsfeed.php, which creates a newsfeed, an RSS feed. I'm going to, well, let me go ahead and click on it here because it kind of shows the difference between different browsers. This is Chrome. So what did Chrome do? When I clicked on that RSS feed, it just basically gave me the XML. It just dumped it to the screen. It wasn't very smart about it. If you take the same thing, though, and put it into Firefox, and we click on the RSS feed, it says, "Oh, I understand that as an RSS feed." Firefox has something called live bookmarks, which are basically it's a news reader for basically websites that have RSS feeds. So what happens is you'll go query and you'll just get a short list of things that have changed, changed on the website that you could go look at. Clicking on any of these will actually go to the website. So that's what the RSS feed is. It's a good way to look at news, or if you want to keep track of some website that changes, they'll often provide an RSS feed off that website. And it's basically pushing information to you as opposed to you having to go get it all the time. Okay. Got lost. Okay, we were here. The last part of this page has the results of a search of YouTube for videos that pertain to whatever the search criteria was. So And they said, well, they only said they only wanted to do 5. And this also allows you to click on any one of these. It takes you to YouTube. I'm glad it's short. That's just their example of a YouTube, video that you could search for. We're going to do one for our own.
You have post on community access tower.
Yeah, looks like it. Okay. So, we're going to figure out how to do this in our own example. So here, this index.html basically gives you that page we just looked at. So we're looking at it. At standard HTML stuff at the top. Looks like pretty standard. It's connected to the database. It tests to see if we've only got a single report or multiple reports in the database and displays it differently. If we go back to this, if I click on one of these, it will display a single entry for the report. So that's what this pretty standard database query does. These two queries do get one or get multiple. So if we have one, we're going to display it one way. If we have multiple, we're going to display a table. That's what basically this does. And then, so that either displays this table or one entry. So that's what that first part of that example did. Again, none of this is new material. It's just kind of a different application of the same material. When we get down to right here at the end of the table, here is the link to the news feed. So it's a standard link with some text on it, and it links to this file right here, newsfeed.php. And then the YouTube's material at the bottom of the page is placed on the page with youtube.php. So at this index page, pretty straightforward. Links, HTML, some PHP code to display the screen. The new part is in these next two files we'll look at, newsfeed.php and youtube.php. So here's newsfeed.php. It's not a long file. This is the whole thing right here. Again, it's going to use our header command that we learned about in previous classes and define the content type for this data coming out of this as XML. So it's text XML. And then the very first thing is it echoes out that line that you see at the beginning of XML files. It defines it as an XML file. So that's all that's...
Is it creating one?
So it's creating an XML file.
Okay.
That's right. So this RSS feed stuff creates an XML file.
When it comes in?
When it comes in.
When you do an RSS feed, are you talking about making one or reading one?
Makes it. This makes an RSS feed. Good point.
On the server.
Okay.
Yeah. So now these next few lines are just standard XML. I was just almost going to say HTML. Looks like HTML, but it's just standard XML for the definition of an RSS feed. So that the reason you have to start out with you start out an RSS feed with this tag, and notice The tag is RSS, and there's the end tag for it. Everything's got to have an end tag. It just says you're going to use version, the attribute says you can use version 2.0. The next tag is channel. Oh, there's the end tag down there. Next tag is a title for this RSS feed. It provides a link for the RSS feed, a description for it, and what language it's in. And that's all just hard-coded. That's not dynamic. That's just going to go out every time this newsfeed.php is called. Yeah.
So that means if someone wants to subscribe to this, then the URL that they use is that one under.
No, actually not. The one they'll use is this one right here. So oftentimes you'll see them. You'll click on it and you'll say copy link address, and then they'll go to whatever their news reader is and paste in that. And this is the link they'll use. This thing called, and it'll go to this at the bottom of the screen. I can't move my cursor because at the bottom of the screen, that's the link it'll go to, newsfeed.php, and that's what they put in their newsreader. Now, this newsfeed.php.
That was being displayed under most recent reports is the actual feed. It's just snippets of it.
It's really not the feed. This is just data out of the database put into a table. It really has nothing to do with the feed, although the feed kind of looks like it. It's a little confusing the way they did it, but it's not. This is just
Showing you what's available.
this is going to the website and seeing the website. The newsfeed would show you kind of short briefs for each one.
This won't handle the push, whereas
Right.
the feed reader will handle the push.
Right. That's right. The feed reader would handle the push. That's right. Now, what another service the newsreader gives you is you can typically mark something as being read, and that's done on the newsreader side, not on the server side. So the server keeps providing whatever it wants to provide as the most recent stuff on their database. Now, it could cut things off if it wants to at some point, so it only shows the most recent. But the client, the news reader itself, will mark the ones that you've already read and not show them to you anymore, or whatever you want to do. So creating this news feed, it now gets into creating a connection to the database. Does a select that kind of selects a bunch of stuff out of the database, and that's just a standard select, although they do use this data format. That's kind of new to us. But it's standard SQL, and it does the query and then loops through the data that it returns. And it starts it with an item tag, then a title tag, and it's going to put in first name, last name, alien description, and then it's going to use, this is going to be the link for it in this item, the publication date, so it actually gets that out of the database, and a description. So that's what displays this information right down here. It's that XML. If you actually went to here and looked at the page source for this, it's not very helpful. The reason it's not very helpful is because it didn't format it at all for us. But it's just XML. Here's the title tag that was put in. There's one of the item tags. If you followed it, now I I'm going to show you another XML file I got just like this. It was all run together, and I used a probe and one of the editors to indent it correctly so we could see it. So. Okay, so that's creating a news feed. Pretty simple. I don't want to oversimplify it, but it's pretty simple. You're basically creating an XML file. And then when somebody links to it, their newsreader will read it. You're frowning, Steve.
Okay, question.
Yeah.
The newsreader generates the XML file.
It's been a standard setup in the industry that newsreaders will use this format of an XML file.
Because I'm just looking at it. All those tags could be
Could be. Although, there is no item tag.
You get to name your own elements, which helps a lot.
Well, right, that's right.
Yeah.
That's a standard for you.
It doesn't seem to be that different to the page. Formatted. That was sending the information reformatted to another device.
Right.
That will interpret it as the invitation.
Yeah. In HTML, a lot of the HTML tags do allow you to control how it looks in the browser when you end up. But generally, it's up to the browser to decide how it's going to look. You're with HTML, you're giving it an idea of how you want it to look. This thing has to be bold, or this thing has to be, italics, and then the browser decides what bold's going to look like and what italics is going to look like, and sometimes that screws you up. But that's kind of the way HTML works. This is even more so that way. You're basically just giving the newsreader data. You're not giving it format or style, any type of format or style information. Newsreader handles all that. It decides how it's going to do it. You're just giving it data.
So if you, let's say, are those standard tag names for the newsreader, or is this anything you want to use to define?
No, they are standard for, the newsreader is expecting a title. Okay.
Right.
So this, yes, this is, and it's expecting a link and a description and a language. So all newsreaders expect those tags.
So it is based on those tags using internal definitions as to display.
Right. Based on those tags. But you're basically providing it data to the newsfeed. Any more questions on that? Okay. Let's go on to this part down here, getting YouTube stuff. How do we query some other service on the internet for information? There's a general technology to do that called REST. That's that representational, whatever it is. Representational state transfer. That's how you get the data from other resources on the internet. That looks like this. So here is a REST request. That URL. If we stick that into a web browser, you can do that. I don't need you anymore, Steve, sorry. There we go. Oh, I just did it twice. So what comes back from this request for information from the service is an XML file. And this is browsers and your program don't care how it looks, but we do to look at it. So I got this result, and this is the YouTube response. I just formatted it. So this is that same data that just came back from YouTube. And it's this XML file. Now, the only thing that's, other than the fact that it's big, which is kind of intimidating, don't let it intimidate you. The other part that's a little bit confusing about this XML file is that it uses namespaces. So, why do we have namespaces in XML, or namespaces in anything? Namespaces are fairly common in programming languages. Yeah, scope. It says
further breakdown of the what belongs to what part of the property of the program.
Exactly. The way you indicate a namespace in XML is this colon character. So GD colon comments says this is the comments tag in the GD namespace. Or this is the location tag in the YT namespace, or YouTube namespace. So because it's kind of, you can think of it as, because we can define all these tags, or the tags can be defined, by each application or each technology for their XML. You've got to somehow give them a way to make them unique. Because what if YT and GD both had a location tag? How could you tell which tag this was? This is how you do it, is with namespaces. Now, you'll see that it kind of complicates namespaces complicates the PHP somewhat as well. But if we browse through this XML file, we can kind of find, the information that we want to display in here. Each entry, or each YouTube video, is returned in an entry block. So between this end entry and this begin, that's one video. So you can see different information. Here's the text kind of description of it under content. Here's the link to it. It's also the ID to it. We can tell when it was published, when it was updated. I don't know what GML point is. But let's go ahead and look at some of the stuff we want to find in this file. So we look at, so this URL is going to give us the data. It's going to ask for the data from YouTube. We're going to define the number of videos maximum we're going to display. It's going to be 5. I'm going to create. Now, it's interesting in the book. They kind of go off. You're using object-oriented programming when you get to this step, but they don't call it this. They called it an object, and they just said this is a way of combining data and the methods, but they never called it object-oriented programming. So they were trying to, I don't know, yeah, teach you something without letting you get afraid of it. But I like to scare you first. So, so this XML load uses this URL up here, goes and gets the data, and loads an object with that XML document that was returned. So the whole thing this whole thing here is an XML document, starting at the beginning to the end. Yeah.
Does YouTube limit the amount of returns you do, or when you search and you just, because I mean obviously there's so many videos, it must limit it.
Could be. I don't know what it is. Yeah, you think so?
You don't want to get back a document that's 100 pages.
Oh, yeah.
But in the case of this, they have to create their own videos and channels and everything else and put it up there, right?
Right. That's how they did this.
It's just by the search word, aliens affected, right?
Well,
There's more to it.
in the book, it describes this REST query.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of things you can put in here. You can put this one doesn't happen to use any search terms. This one says, I'm going to look only for this user's
videos, okay.
the ones they've marked as favorites. Okay, so that's what this REST query returned. You'll notice in the book they give you an example of doing a search with keywords.
So you can search on anything.
You can search on anything.
All
All of YouTube. That's right. So we return, we get all that XML, gets a document. It's now contained, you can think of it as contained in this variable called XML. If they are basically looking at this is a property. It's going to return all the entry nodes from the document. Notice I said, well, each of those entries is a video. So this is basically going to count the number of videos we're going to do. Now, notice the syntax. That looks like just what we were doing when we were doing object-oriented programming. Because there's no parentheses right here, there's no there's nothing like that on it. It's not a method. You're just looking at a data item, a property that's in the class, which is the entry has the entry nodes in it.
Was that defined
Well, it's not necessarily well, yes, it is a known property, because basically what this guy returns is a specific type of object. And if we go to it returns that type of object, a simple SML element. It's a class. We were talking about classes before. I don't want to scare you, but that's what it is. It's a class.
and all the definitions of those tags more or less in that?
All the definitions for that, like that entry, is in that. So if we just search for PHP, we're going to go to our favorite website. Yeah, it's basically the manual online. So this is a standard PHP built-in class, the simple XML element class, and this thing is now defining all the different parts of it. And you can find all the parts of it. Is it simple XML element? Yeah. Sorry. Excuse me?
The properties of the simple XML element, not YouTube.
Right.
Okay, I get it.
Yeah, right. So the simple XML element class is standard to PHP, nothing to do with YouTube. It took that YouTube, that data, that XML document, and put it in this, and created a class with it. That's what this guy did. That's what that statement did. It created a simple XML element class. from the data that was returned from this URL. Then the next thing we did is we took one of the properties out of the class and just counted it. Then we just made sure we found at least one. And then we start our a table. We just echo the table. Then we loop through, we go into a loop that goes from here to there. That's going to loop either the number of videos we found or the maximum number of videos we'll allow. It's going to take the minimum, so it's either going to do, it turned out it found 3, so it's going to use 3 because 3 is less than 5. So it's going to go through that loop, either the number it found or 5. Okay, so here it's going to get one of those entry nodes out of that XML. So XML entry, we saw that. It's an array of entries, and this thing's going to go from 0 to however many there are we're doing. So we're going to get one of those out of that array using that counter. Now the namespace, this is where the namespace stuff gets confusing, makes it more confusing than it would be otherwise. I need to get all the children of that in the entry class. So if you look at the entry class, each one of these items in here are children of the entry class because they're inside of it. But I only want to get the media ones, not all of them. So that's what this syntax does. And I can't remember where this came from.
That's probably the URL that corresponds to the media tag.
Yeah.
The namespace.
There's a mapping of these namespaces with an ID, and this looks like a URL, but it's.
Go back to the YouTube response. Is there?
I'm going to search for it here.
So is that the same thing?
Yeah, so here, yeah. Yeah, I searched for it right here, so that is the same thing. So there it says, it's defining basically this media namespace with this ID. Now the book explains this, and this app namespace has this ID and on down. So that's how that's tied together. So that's where this thing came from.
Seems like there ought to be an easier way to do that.
Well, no, in our book there probably is. They don't take the easiest way.
So the media variable is just giving namespace.
Yeah, well, let's look and see how it's used. So here it's going to get something out of the media namespace called group, and inside group there's something called title. So let's find that. So let's look for that in the media namespace. Inside the group, okay, so this is this part right here, the group, and then it wanted the title. So media group, and inside there is title. Dog rides Yeah, in UFO. So it's grabbing that title out of this part of the XML document that was returned. So that's what gave us this guy right here. So it's going to. So that's what that line right there does. Gets that title. Then it's going to get all the children in media that are in the namespace YT, and then it's going to grab out of YT the duration tag, and it's going to get all the attributes. So let's look at the duration tag underneath YT inside media. So, yeah, so here it is right there. So there's the duration tag. It has some number of attributes. We know because we can read it right here. It has one attribute, seconds, which is equal to 11. So what is it going to do with that? So it gets the attributes. That's $attributes. It's going to grab the seconds attribute, which is 11, and divide it by 60, and take the floor of that. The floor is 11 divided by 60 is less than 1, so it's going to be 0. So it's going to, the length in minutes is going to be 0. So then it takes the same attribute, the seconds, and takes the mod with 60. We saw this mod function before in another script. That gives you the remainder. If you divide these the seconds by 60, it gives you the remainder left over. So 11 divided by 60 is 0 with a remainder of 11. So in case there's basically the length in seconds. So it's the XML file gives you the result in seconds, and it could be 300 seconds, or it could be 323 seconds. They didn't want to display that duration in seconds. They wanted to display it in minutes and seconds. So it's just computing how many minutes are there and how many seconds are left over. So if it's 5 minutes, 10 seconds, you could display that. And that's what this line does right here, is it just formats that. There's the length formatted. It even goes as far as to, if it's 1 minute, it's going to use minute and not minutes. Okay, so that's what some of this stuff is doing. Or if it's 1 second, it's going to be second and not second. Okay. So now get the video URL. So here it's going to reuse this variable called attributes, or ATTRs. It's a little dangerous. Out of the media namespace, it's going to look at group again. It's going to look at player and then get the attributes off of player. So let's just look at that. So media group player. Media group player. And here's the attributes. There's only happens to be one, and it's a big long URL. So it's going to grab that. This next line, it's going to grab the URL and put it in video URL. And it's going to do something very similar and grab the thumbnail. It's basically a URL to get the thumbnail image. Group thumbnail 0. Let's look and see what that looks like. So there's a set of thumbnails here, and it's going to get one. So it's going to get the first one.
So the method when it goes and creates this information, puts it into the array. Basically what method.
An object.
It's putting it into an object. I wouldn't. It's more complex than an array.
So it puts it into an object which you directly see each individual property.
Also, it's creating a new object, and then it's creating multiple properties if they exist, and you reference them. There's a way of referencing an array. What's going on?
I think it's taking the XML data and putting it into an object, and most of them it looks like it's properties.
Yeah, it's. I wouldn't say it's putting it into an array. I'd say it's taking this XML data, it's loading it into this object, and then it gives you methods and properties to get stuff out of that XML document. So like this right here.
Well, I can see the whole entirety of like get the thumbnail image URL, and then saying get thumbnail, and then square bracket 0.
So thumbnail is an array.
That's what I meant.
Yeah. Okay. No, you're right.
So that method is producing arrays of those groups.
Not everything is an array. You know, you're saying that's.
Well, in other words, it's a multiple.
Yeah. If it's a multiple, it's an array, and this one is. So there's a multiple of these tags ended up whether the same. It created an array out of it. Yeah, and it may not ever create an array of that because the definition for this XML file, media player, says you can only have one media player entry. And so it'll never have more than one of those. So you can count on that and not have to access it as an array.
The array was probably created up in that call we made at the top, the one where you went and looked it up. PHP, simple XML load file YouTube. That probably created the array when you put it into XML object.
Yeah, it probably did.
I don't know if just because you grouped it in an XML file that it's automatically an array. It probably was created by that.
Right. So this one line right here did a lot of stuff, because it parsed that XML file and looked at all those tags and found all the things and grouped it in the data structures so that it could easily retrieve it for you in all of these methods and properties down here. Kind of stuck it in memory in structured data arrays, data structures.
We're looking at the other file. That's the one that you made all nice and pretty.
Right. Yeah. You know, when we looked at it, you know, here. I mean, that's the way the file really comes down.
And when it comes down that way, the other function converts that. So in other words, we don't have to ever look at that, right?
We don't know. You don't ever have to look at this. You just have to know. You have to know the format. You have to know the definition of this response. The reason I keep referring kind of back to this version of it, which is the same thing, just made pretty, so you can understand what all of those things are doing. It's going in and grabbing this part of it. It's going in and grabbing that part of it. You don't necessarily, once you understand, you know, what you have to get out of it, and what the schema of the XML is. So the schema is kind of the rules of what's allowed into this XML file, and there's a schema related to this, and that's just, you know, it has to start with channel. You know, it's all the rules for creating this.
Those are all defined within the PHP text.
Right. It was defined. It basically was defined by YouTube. This format of this XML response was defined by YouTube. So next week, I'm actually considering doing dynamic maps on our websites, and we'll do that with Google Maps. It does something very similar to this, and we'll get an XML file from them, and it's a different form. It's an XML file that'll have different stuff in it because it's doing maps, not YouTube videos. It's what Google defined. Right. Okay. So we're down here. We got we grab that thumbnail URL out of it, and then we display the results for this entry. So we echo table entry. It's basically using all of these things that we collected and putting it in into a table. So that's what's creating this table down here. Is that one? Is this one echo statement right here? Then we echo the end of the table tags, and if this if statement didn't find any videos, it would say, "Oh, sorry, we don't have any videos." Now, I must have spent an hour on this file getting it to work. Because it come in right out of the book, it didn't work. Well, I'm not sure yet. It's one of these cases where I got it to work, but gosh, I don't know what was wrong with it. So let me describe, maybe you guys can help me figure it out. The first thing I did is I ran it, and yet I just got no videos ever. So it never returned any videos. So I was always going to, I was always getting this. Okay, so I started messing around with it and putting echo statements in, and then I started getting PHP syntax errors. And so I started retyping everything because I think there was an odd character in there.
I found errors in the book a couple of times now in their code files that I downloaded.
Now, if I if I did this, it won't run. For the life of me, I don't understand why that's true. Why does this not work and this work?
All the pages that I've done, I just used them before.
I know, I've used it all over the place.
And all of a sudden it doesn't work.
It doesn't work in this file.
That's more like CSS comments. I guess that's also a long PHP comment. Like that could be a multiple line comment.
Yeah,
That's what that one is for. Right?
That's what it's usually used for, yeah, it's a multiple line comment.
I'll remember that one. I'll remember that one.
Yeah, so when you do this, I can make this one available, because I don't want you struggling on this kind of crummy stuff.
Do like you did with the S at the end.
Sure.
Thank you.
I'll put YouTube.phps on the end, and then you can just go to the same place where this guy is. But look for, you know, you can test all these things, like of course, this is the Chrome doesn't seem to have a built-in news reader. It just displays the XML, but you can test it easily that way, or you can test the just that part of the script using that. Okay. So I just keep going. We're almost done. I'm going to explain homework and then answer any more questions you have, and then we're done. I won't take a break. Okay. So I think we are, unless you have any questions on this that you can think of.
On the thumbnails, is it possible to just embed video there instead?
Well, you don't really want a video. What do you mean embed a video there?
Embed their videos actually on the page.
Yeah, you're right. I've seen that. And they just sit there ready to click on.
There, you just click. I just got like, I had to do a page where we're pulling stuff out of the database and I had like 12 layout. And the funny thing is, depending on how powerful the computer is, you can get all
I'm all running at the same time.
Like holding the same way, XML and PHP, or those are JavaScript.
As far as I remember, it's just that there's an embed tag. And just the and then you have some other, there was another code there, I can't remember what it was.
If you like to do it that way, that's fine. I don't care. The only downside I can think of that is, you know, they can end up being small, and you know, you may want them bigger. Those look too big. Right?
You can adjust the size.
Okay. No, that's fine. That's great.
The trick is actually changing the call it the Chrome or
The player.
the player. There is ways of doing it, but I just never figure out.
Well, just remember, you know, I appreciate you guys taking these and doing more than what I'm asking to be done. That's great. But I've had a few people get stuck.
You get way out there. And then
You get way out there, yeah, you get way out there and you get lost. You don't know where the heck you are.
I've had that almost happen a few times, but I always figure it out after hours and hours and hours of stuff.
Yeah, I did that a lot too.
Okay, I'm reading your comments, Jim. Children is a method of dollar entry or dollar media or ... and returns an array of objects. True. Method. True. Method. I've tried to pull down your PHP files, but if they're rendered as HTML, I can't get the code. I understand that RSS will render as XML, so we can copy that in our clipboards. Am I on the right page? I think.
You said you were going to provide it to us. Right?
Yeah. So let me just show you exactly what I do to get this working. We'll run FileZilla. Trying to get this on my page. I'll connect. I love the fact that this works. Yay!
Always.
Yeah. So this is number 12. So I want to. I think I can just do things right in here with FileZilla. So the YouTube one, we'll start with that. I'll say. Copy. Nope. Download out to files queue. Well, I can do this. See, I can. All you have to do to be able to read it is just do that. I just renamed it to HTTPS to YouTube.phps. Now let me get the original back up there. That's the only issue.
So how do we know what files are out there with that type of stuff?
I have to tell you, you don't know. Keep trying.
Well, I guess charting in here, and I was wondering if there was a name there.
So I'm going to put the original back up here so we have both. Okay, so now if so we're here and we go so that's the one that executes. And if I just put the S on it, that's just the PHP. Now it's a mess. But almost all the editors I've seen will straighten that out for you. Because it's not that messy on my computer, but it, you know, I think,
Before you get rid of that,
yeah.
right click on that page, inspect elements. Source. Yeah, go to source. Right here.
Refresh the page first to get it to pop up.
But you can also just click the combo box on it.
Refresh the page, it'll make the document show on the bottom. It should have gone around.
They click the little right below elements, there's a little right arrow. Click that. And click on YouTube.
Usually the
Yeah.
tidy, the
So my solution was going to be,
use tidy.
Maybe because it's
oh, I didn't do it either.
normally it will think that.
It's funny, the other ones I did had character turn line feeds in it. Maybe it's because I did this on a Unix box, and it doesn't have the Windows line feeds in it. Yeah, so sorry about that. That's what I did, is I did it on a Linux box, and yeah. There was an editor on my Linux box called JEdit. That's how I got that YouTube.
On my Unix, it's like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so where was it? What were we talking about? Oh, you now can get that file. You'll just have to straighten it out. Okay.
The other part of his question was the same question I had.
Which was?
About the children method. And what the purpose is, you know, how.
Okay, so this says, give me an array of objects that match the media tag, the media namespace.
So all the children of media come back in an array. Children. Call
It's really the children of entry.
entry first.
You say entry, give me, yeah, called children, give me all the children of entry that are in this namespace. And then we had to do that funny thing to figure out what the heck the namespace was. That was this thing up here. It was near the top. We had the links for the namespaces up here. Control C. Yeah, everything, yeah. Yeah, so up here near the top was this definition for the media namespace was this ID.
You could have another media namespace.
If you changed it, it would be a different name. If you different.
No, if you had media, it would be do not search. That could exist.
That could exist, but it would be a different thing.
Right. So when you go grab one of those, then you're using the namespace to just get those elements, and you have media, some that's in there. It's not going to get those.
Not going to get those. Right. It's a different name. So it's going to search the entry tag for anything in the media namespace. So it got these. And then
First call doesn't say anything about media.
this one? It's indirectly. This is the confusing part. This is the ID for the media namespace. We found that at the top of the file because it said media right there. It's defined right there.
And it puts that in an array called media.
in an array called media.
And then you do children on media, you get about 3 lines down. You run children again.
Right. And this is going to get for the YT namespace. If we looked for this guy, you'd see that's associated with YT, with the YT namespace.
Is the dollar media in that line the one that is defined 3 lines above it?
It's this one. So in that case, it's not really an array, is it? It's an object.
Correct. An object.
With the method that it's another XML node. See, each one of these things is an XML node, and they all have the same methods on them. I mean, the data on the inside might be different, but you can call children of media as well as calling children of entry, because entry and media are XML nodes, and they always, an XML node always has a children method on it.
So is this set up this way because you want to limit your search to Yahoo, or you want to use Yahoo? I mean, I don't understand the YouTube link down below. So what does Yahoo have to do with it?
We need to get the duration, and that was in a namespace, a Yahoo or YouTube namespace. Okay.
But the videos themselves are coming out of Yahoo, not out of YouTube.
I mean, they're coming out of.
Well, why do we have to get the?
This is just the definition of the media tag, of the media namespace. So
Defined by who?
Defined by YouTube. Well, the media namespace is defined by Yahoo. YouTube happens to be using it in their XML file.
They're using a schema that's defined by Yahoo for the media
Right.
encapsulation.
Right.
Or set of rules.
It's the set of rules for the XML file. This is confusing because basically you've got an XML file that's got multiple sets of rules.
Depending on how far down the hierarchy, right?
And what namespace you happen to be in. So if you're in the media namespace, it has a certain set of rules. If you're in the YT namespace, it has another set of rules. This is what can be here, this is what can't be here. And it's defined by these.
So media is actually, YouTube is one type of media. There's other kinds of media at a higher level of the hierarchy.
Could be.
Okay, that answers the question.
Okay. So now I'd like you to do your standard copy your application, create an RSS feed in your application. So I would do that for just, most of you are registering players, some of you are registering coaches. One of those things, create an RSS feed out of that so that I can see that RSS feed. Okay. Similar to this. Now link to YouTube from, again, this is a little contrived, I have to agree, but put on your page links to the top 5 baseball skills YouTube videos. So much like this alien abduction one.
YouTube videos.
Excuse me?
Put links to the YouTube videos.
Right. Like this one is done. Wherever it is. Wow, like this.
Okay.
Okay. Except for it's going to be in the index. So
Should this be if you're logged in or not logged in?
It's up to you. Whatever you'd like to do. Make me log in if you like. Probably logged in, but whatever you want to do. Now, you're going to have to search YouTube using keywords, but you can test it pretty easily. You just go to YouTube. And it's the same thing as putting it up here. Oh, I love this one. Can you believe they did this?
Check this out. Ask her about that.
So they set up these nets, okay, all around the field. He hits this net, it bounces around, comes back around, he hits it again. He's hitting the same ball over and over again. So it goes from here to there to there to there and then back to him. And now he says, that's not good enough. Give me another ball. So now he's hitting 2 balls around the diamond. I can't see how he could fake this either. Anyway. So, you can search for those keywords, baseball skills, and it makes it somewhat applicable to our little database. And you can line up your little things along the bottom. I would only do 5 or 4, however many you want to do. I think I did the search and there's like a gazillion, so you don't want to do, there's multiple pages of them. So you're going to have to limit it to some number. So you'll get, if you do this search, that XML file you'll get, it's going to be pretty big. But the program's going to handle it, so you don't care. Probably.
So you get 1,000 back and you just limit it to 5.
Just limit to 5.
I wonder if there's a way to eliminate your scroll to YouTube.
Good question. I'm not sure.
So we just need what, like 1 page, like the example there where you have.
So either on your index page, I'm not sure where you want to put it, Steve.
I just make another button.
That's fine for this. Yeah, make another button, put another page on there.
But they're combined, the RSS feed and
I would put the RSS feed button, I put another RSS feed button over here.
and when you get out of that,
You get XML. Or you right click and say copy link, and you stuff the link in your newsreader.
but what are we going to like deal with people? Where's that coming from?
I would give them each of the people in your database.
So in other words, anytime there's a change in the people.
So anytime so what would happen is anytime there's a change in the people in your database, that would show up in somebody's newsreader. We went through that.
Oh, yeah, and I've got the general picture, but not.
Okay, that's this thing called newsfeed.php. Remember this short little one that was so short, it took us such a short time to go through?
I guess I don't see where it's saying if I go and change the entries in the database, it will trigger off the other part.
This is going to return all the entries in the database every time. That's what this script will do. It's up to the newsreader to remember the ones it's displayed before.
What triggers the sending of the XML file?
The newsreader will
So
actually...
the newsreader queries it and it comes back.
Right.
So you don't have to worry about sending it out.
No, you don't send it out. You're right. We call it pushing it, but it's not really pushing it. The newsreader goes out and queries it.
So in other words, this script is accessible to a newsreader and when you want to sign in or whatever, you can put a script.
Yeah, let's,
So it has
let's,
to be placed someplace that's not secure or whatever.
You put the link provided into it.
But it's also kind of ability to do that newsread, so just go out and link to the link.
okay, so see this thing right over here on the side? That's a newsreader.
Okay.
Over here. Okay?
On your Google homepage.
In my Google page, which happens to be going away, everybody.
Right.
That's telling me I like it.
I thought they just said the background was
Like
going
the
away.
going away?
Oh, they want to sell you Chrome, basically.
I thought it was the,
As long as they don't get rid of the phone service.
background was going away.
Which one?
I thought it was the whole thing.
My phone service.
Yeah, mine too.
Google
So,
Voice is great.
yeah. So this is a newsreader. Okay, so it's got from all of these different sources: K-Love News, GM Volt, Chevy Volt. So there's 9 of them right now. And if I click on one, it gives me more of that information. Okay, the date, the time, remember, all that stuff. There's a link there to go to the original article and that little description. Okay, this is all fed to this newsreader through that XML file. And this newsreader went out and queried all of them and keeps track of all of them and knows which ones I read, because I've now read this one, and if I refresh this page, that one will be gone. Now I only have 9 of them, 8 of them, because I used to have 9.
I can't believe you don't have aliens abducted.
So now wait a second. So here's the newsreader kind of configuration. So here's all the stuff I haven't read. I can I think I can set this to say so view details. I think I can set it to display everything, not just the new ones. But I can hit the subscribe button, and that's where I would put in that URL that I would cut out of the aliens abduction page. Yeah, let's see if it works. I don't want that one. I don't want that one. I want that one. So I take this one and I say copy link address. And I'm going over to my Google place. I'm going to screw up my Google place now. Yeah. And okay, you have subscribed to Aliens Abducted Me news feed. So here's all of these guys. There's the news feed from that page.
Okay, so just the link to the script and the script query database and that's the information back to this program.
Right.
So it's really up to the humans to do this stuff. It's not like matter.
To link it, right.
To do the link part.
Right.
And some news.
Click here and then automatically your news feed is.
But notice what Firefox did. I just clicked on the link. Firefox recognized that that was a news RSS feed, and said, "Do you want to subscribe to it?" And so it gave a very easy way to subscribe to it. Remember when I went here and wherever it is? Yeah, it's right here. So I went. I got that same newsfeed.php. I went there and it said, "Oh, you want to subscribe to this?" And Firefox has news readers called live bookmarks, okay, which is a type of a news reader that you can read these news things with Firefox, and it gives you an easy way to sign up for it. It's just that Google's wasn't quite as easy, but I'm signed up for it. I got all those alien stuff now in my newsreader.
You like to track Portland's weather and see.
I have a bunch of relatives in Portland, and I have my son in Chico, but now he lives in Red Bluff.
I lived up in Portland for 20 years.
Did you? Okay.
So you're used to the rain.
Yeah.
Rain.
I know that.
You can tell a lot about a person from their iGoogle page. Yeah.
Okay, so where should we put the script in? I guess it doesn't do it in the root directory. on the web page.
You put it anywhere you want, as you get the,
What do you mean?
Well,
The newsfeed.php scripts?
right.
Where should you put it?
As long as you have the.
They have the index page that
Yeah.
displayed everything, but then the actual YouTube and other ones were separate pages. You download the files on the board.
Just a couple of last things.
That's what I would do, and then just start.
But I'm just curious, you know, like where is the best place to put this script?
Probably right along with your other scripts, for your, right in the same directory for this assignment. Put that make a newsfeed.
In real life, where's the most secure place to put something?
I would put it right next to the other scripts or in the folder if you want to keep
yeah,
it
good
clean.
folder.
Yeah.
And I would do that just so I could do the least amount of work. I
You
would
can
try
never
and
put
use
it down in
their
your
script.
RSS feed reader.
Like, like with the graph, the least amount you have to do with it, the better. With this, I would try and use theirs without changing hardly anything, and just kind of pass it the right data.
Oh, okay, I'm just curious as to where to put it in terms of security. It's all the same. It doesn't really matter.
It's not less secure or more sensitive than any of your other files. Your PHP.
I would assume that the main part, let's say the scripts to the database should be where
They're not going to be
you can't get to them.
But where is it can't get to them? Anywhere in your server at that point, if somebody's in there, they can dig through your file directory. That's where, I mean, you could try that.
I could go to where,
Yeah, if you put it
Where
where
it's
it's
called.
processed, you know,
Yeah, so for each file.
there's no, you can't.
Yeah, but this is just like your index.php. Outside people have to access this
Right,
file.
well, that's what I meant. So in other words, I probably should put it in where the index
Yeah.
file is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to get a PHP page on the server.
it is. But you could write,
Maybe
would call that
you
freedom.
can use it, you take your browser, you go there and in the script shows up.
You get this script.
Yeah.
How can you get a PHP script through the browser?
You can't.
By the time it gets to
I
the browser,
have,
it's
I haven't seen
no,
You
by the time
can't.
it
You
gets to the
you can't
browser,
do it. Show me how to do it.
Okay. PHP,
PHP is like
See,
constantly
yeah.
rewriting the
Right.
HTML page up on the server. And once it's sent,
Now I had to go through great lengths to put that. Not great lengths. I had to put an S on the end of the PHP so that you guys could see my scripts.
right.
Because otherwise you can't see it.
Somehow I'll put it at the beginning of the class. And it could be maybe that I was trying to do it as HTML or something else.
You had the wrong suffix on the bottom.
Something
Yeah.
like that, because when, you know, all I did was I just typed in the URL.
Yeah, if you put your PHP script in an HTML file, unless you do some special configuration on the server,
Right.
it's going to consider it HTML and probably just display it. I think that's what you did, Jeff, didn't you? You did a special configuration on your
I was trying to make it.
make HTML be interpreted as PHP.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he had to do something in his htaccess file so that if he could put PHP in .html file and have it be interpreted correctly.
Right, and so that, in a sense, that's really not secure then, right?
No, it's fine. Why would that not be secure?
Oh, okay, all right, in other words, the script is PHP. Wait a minute, what's the script? The extension is HTML.
but it's
Yeah, I mean, one of my
It's pretty
labs,
hard to
I
make
think,
something change.
and the server will strip
That's not
out.
what he's talking about. What,
well, one of my labs, I made all my files HTML with an HTML suffix.
Right.
And I told the htaccess file to treat those as a mixture of HTML and PHP.
Okay, so if you took on the browser,
Any browser will be right.
It's well, it's possible you did the reverse of that. You put some PHP inside of an HTML file without doing the htaccess. And maybe that did it. If you just displayed, yeah, if you just put the file name .inc, then the server doesn't know what to do with that, so it's probably just going to display it. Yeah, it won't execute it either. That's
Well,
right.
execute because all the files are in there.
Well, you have to include them for them to be
Right.
executed into a PHP
Yeah,
file.
right. So the question was,
And on certain displays,
you use the script if you just.
once it treats them out, they won't show.
Yeah, that's the server height, that's when you come down, I mean, if you're gonna get into the server, you need HTTP or something. The PHP.
Oh,
I
already
tried, I mean, it's hard, if you're trying to get into somebody's server, it would not be.
Yeah.
Yeah, even running web crawlers can be tricky. Sometimes it learns to the first level. and then-
So now I've made this one due in 2 weeks. Okay, I'm going to give you another assignment next week. We'll have our lecture next week like normal. And I'm going to give you an assignment next week, but it'll be, the whole assignment will be extra credit.
And that's the Google Maps one, that's fun.
Yeah, it'll probably be the Google Maps one. And it'll be similar to this in that it'll be another example of interacting with a resource, grabbing a resource off the internet and putting it on your web page. I'll make it extra credit so that those that would like to get some more extra credit can do it, and those that are lazy, well, those that don't need the extra credit, don't need to do it. They don't want to. They already got their A or whatever they're shooting for. But it allows some folks to catch up a little bit. But you know, if you're busy over the holiday, it also takes some of the pressure off. But okay. I think that the week after that, I wanted to get your feedback on this. I think I was going to do Code Igniter. Okay. I don't know if you read that email. There was a guy that has a company in town that's looking for PHP programmers. Yep. He's still looking for PHP programmers.
Oh, the one who's in now?
Yeah.
I responded.
Okay.
I didn't hear back from
Okay. Their shop uses something called Code Igniter, or PHP Code Igniter, something like that. It's a PHP framework. So it is a way, and you'll run into this if you start doing PHP coding, you know, for different people. They'll have something, they may not have Code Igniter, but oftentimes they'll have something like this. So I was thinking about doing that on the next one after Google Maps to see what that's like, see what it does for you, what it doesn't do for you. And Stephen, it'll be a little bit like what you were talking about with the charts. You have to learn somebody else's way of doing it.
Is this anything like control model view?
Yeah, like a framework, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be similar to that.
For JavaScript.
But this guy that had the openings, their shop used that, so it's just an example of one. We won't get that far into it. But I looked into it already once, and it seemed pretty easy to get going on it. So it would be a good experience. Good experience. It'll be good for you.
And you can record it because next week's on open house.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Google Igniter. Yeah, that would be
Google
good.
is from JavaScript.
Common things you learn. So
Angular.
taking all your geeks, just take them out, take those off, so we can catch up.
That's good. Yeah. Okay.
Angular is all client side, but Node.js is all server. It's JavaScript on the server, and the big benefit is two-way communication. Instead of client server, it's just an open tunnel for data that
It's always something.
that's the big advantage to it.
So it's a new version of Ajax or whatever.
No, it's instead PHP, we're using JavaScript on the server, and I think it's really going to take over. It's gaining momentum so fast, and so many people are trying to buy it.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry.
Jim, you're right. number 1 and number 2 are really two different things. There's two aspects of this. One is doing feeds from our database, and the second part is playing videos for our users. And I'm suggesting you do something on baseball skills. Have to uniquely ID their items. Does the newsfeed publisher have to uniquely ID their items so that news readers can ignore already read ones? Dreamweaver doesn't for the file. Oh. You know, I think the newsreader knows it by the title or something like that that comes out. That's how it identifies and knows that you've already read something. So that the newsreader, all it gets is what's in that XML file that's pushed out. So let's find the right place here. Oh, it's right here. So all it's getting for each item is an item, a title, a link, a published date. Maybe that's how it tells if you've already read it. Because if you change the published date, it's going to say that's going to be a new one. And then a description. So you're right, it does have to figure that out, but it looks like it might do it from that published date. Oh, and he also said he went to phpformatter.com and it prettified my YouTube.php. So I think it probably was, but I ended up kind of almost retyping that whole thing on my Unix box. So that. So any other comments or questions about class content? And then we can just chat after.
Is there a PHP that you made available on your charts?
My charts.
Yeah.
Thanks for the response, Cal. Let's look. So what's that?
I thought the chart information in the book was just more.
The chart information in the book?
Yeah, unless I got a hold of the download of the script, and I understood more or less what they were talking about. But their explanation.
And there's one.
Yeah, so it's mismatch.phps. So mismatch.
Oh, 2 and 3. And
Yeah, mismatch. So these are the three different ways to do charts.
okay.
One of them was with the books example. 2 was with, I think, PHP chart, and 3 was with Google chart. Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay, thanks a lot. I'll sign off now. Thanks, guys.
My mismatch.
Oh, Nikki, you're saying, what is the full URL to those? Okay, let's go to those.
It's at 5513.com. Look for Terry chapter 11B.
Yep. 11B. How did I get to it? I have too many things up here. Let's get rid of something. Mismatch. Okay, so if you put an S on the end of these, then you'll see these ended up being nice and pretty. Must have been Windows thing or something. So if you get to this, the charting ones, they're my mismatch 2, and my mismatch 3.phps. And it's the under look for Terry, chapter 11b. Okay.
Using that email we got was even easier than what the book shows. The query that you sent in that email to,
Yeah.
that was a lot more helpful.
Yeah.
Trying to do that weird counting that they did on the, because it can all be done in the database.
Yeah, that counting was like really weird. Const.php, I don't think handles relative paths, not under.
Well, it was just the query to get a weighted query. Yeah, it was a big query for getting the count.
Let me show you my const.php, Jim.
Yeah, the way they do it is they just query that one column and pull out all the data, whereas there's an actual query right that groups all like items in that column and then puts a count, and then you can, what is it? You can dig through that array through the database and spit that data back straight into a multi-dimensional array, and then you can straight pass it to the function they already made without doing anything else to it.
Sorry, I'm fumbling here.
That'll get you out of doing the most amount.
You said it was in the email.
Yeah, we got an email. It's really simple. It's obvious. It's just count with the asterisks in it, like count all. You'll see it. And then play with it in a,
So this is what I put in mine, Jim. Yeah, that's right. Okay, you're okay now. Okay, so this is what I ended up putting in my path was / look for Terry / chapter 11b.
That's what I ended up with similar to, and it was those 2 forward slashes on the ends that were confusing. Because it starts spinning you back in air and showing you double slashes, so you take them out.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Yeah.
And if you don't have it right, it'll work, but it'll be like first it won't show an image.
It'll look like it's working, but it's
not.
not. Okay. Yeah, that was.
I had a lot of trouble with that, though, getting the right path.
Okay, thanks guys. Signing out. I tried to put PHP Lite in Civilian folder 2013. I didn't use.
PHP chart.
Yeah, I used PHP chart.
That's the free version of
Yeah.
chart. They call it Light.
Which I think I did too, but you know, you realize I didn't put it in a subdirectory.
The folder that you download from them is titled Light.
Is it? Okay. But I put it right in the root of my, my class, the class I was doing this on, example. And that's what worked for me, Jim. Okay, good night, folks.